So I think that a lot of pundits are talking for lots of reasons about why Harris lost or why Trump won, and either being ashamed, embarrassed, or excited, or what have you. Obviously, I'm on the side that was not pleased with the results by a long shot and is worried about the outcomes, what this says about our nation, all those things. But a thought came to me this morning after I listened to Lawrence O'Donnell, and it's not based on really what he said, but it's after that I kind of thought to myself, the movement, Trumpism, ended up being something that would not be denied. I mean, if you imagine that Harris had won, all that angst, all that anger, all that paranoia, all the xenophobia, all of this kind of pseudo national pride, all of the economic misunderstandings, all the belief that Biden stole an election or the first time ever, but didn't do it this time. Just all the absolute bullshit of it. This it just this was a boulder rolling down a hill, and even a Harris presidency would have been great. It would have been better to me. I don't know what's supposed to happen or what the better inevitable solution is, but you're talking about a group of people, a lot of them believing that this person is the Messiah, despite his obvious flaws and crimes and lies. And so, if that much of the population is predisposed to believe that he is a Messiah or believes in a Messiah, and then this is kind of like the right now Messiah or something like that. If after 10 years of an absolute propagandistic, you know, psychological warfare on the people that inevitably vote for this person, if all these things are happening, there's no way that it's going to be denied. So it just would seem like something like this has to run its course, and a lot of us were hoping that that it had basically run its course. She wins, and that was obviously bullshit because she didn't win. But I think it might have been bullshit even if she had won. And I'm not trying to make this about if she had won, but just as an exercise in thought right now, like, she wins, she can't solve every problem. She's a flawed candidate. She's a flawed leader. Um, um, let's say she stays and with Israel and pisses off the left, and then the real lefty left, like us, are saying, hey, stop this Gaza stuff, and she can't control everything in the economy, does certain blunders, or even if she's successful, there's just all that momentum from Trump and Trumpism. It's just hard to imagine that people would say, okay, I'm going home. I'm not going to storm the Capitol, or I'm not going to plant some bomb, or I'm not going to keep the hatred going, keep the racism, keep the sexism going that really animated the Trump presidency, but also especially animated the Trump candidacies. So some people are really good at being presidents, and some people are really good at being candidates. Like, Obama was an amazing candidate, and I felt like his presidency was a disappointment compared to his candidacy. But even his candidacy needed Bill Clinton to kind of come in and rejuvenate it and energize it, to the point that, Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State. Where Clinton probably did some horse trading there. Like, hey, you're going to make her Secretary of State. I'm going to help you win your presidency. And they said, okay, of course, whatever. So maybe that's just my whole point. There's really nothing else to say about it. But if we're talking about kind of like the reality of of political movements and of the idea of momentum, maybe some of us can not just rest easy, but at least say, hey, this was a masterwork in creating political momentum via fear, via resentment, via gripes about the economy, and obviously lies and misunderstandings and distortions and disinformation about COVID and all these different things kind of put together in a big grab bag. Immigration. It's so easy to get people to be against immigrants, especially when they were kind of glaring things like Tren de Agua in the city, and they took over this apartment building. Like, all that stuff is just absolute explosive, fodder, fuel for the fire of Trump and Trumpism, of nativism. And so not only did we have nativism of the natives, that's actually quite erroneous, of the people that feel like the natives. They're certainly not the natives. Guys that look like me are not native to this land, but who've been here long enough that they feel like, hey, this is mine and not yours. And that's how it is with immigration. That's how it was in America with immigration to begin with. Let's say our ancestors certainly killed off and rounded up and made agreements with natives and broke them, and etc. And then obviously all the illness that white people brought from Europe played probably the largest part in decimating the native culture and the native population. And so the first generations and waves of immigrants absolutely despised the next one and acted like, hey, this is my land, even if they've been here one generation or two generations. So a thing we found here with this most recent election was that Hispanics and black voters and other minority groups voted against their interests and voted to remove the newest wave of immigrants because of fear-mongering. Because as soon as you get here, you want to stop the next guy. And that's always how it's been here. And act like you're the native. Nativism. It's just the most ironic term possible. That's human nature, I guess. Or it's the lowest common denominator of human nature. To turn around and say, no more, when you reap the benefits of that. And then you can also say, well, I did it the right way. But you may not have been coming from one of the nations that the United States absolutely disrupted over the past 75 years. And I'm also looking over at a car that says native on it. And what they're saying is native Floridian. And because, you were born here or something like that. So this kind of idea of like, I'm the real thing. I'm the real McCoy. That's just part of our nature. And we also have a higher nature, a more noble nature, but that's not what Trump and Trumpism were eliciting. That's what Biden and Harris were eliciting. Let's be happy. Let's include. Let's expand what it means to be American. Let us honor people's legal rights. Let's have compassion. Let's look at this economy and say, hey, what's going wrong with it? But what they had was the baggage of a Biden administration that did a lot of good things, but also was totally asleep at the wheel in some ways. Harris is from California, which has its share of economic problems. It can be the poster child for lefty liberalism, for big government, for wasteful spending, for Big Brother, and all the tropes, all the caricatures of liberalism that kind of went unanswered and that Trump really doubled down on. So obviously I'm going on some tangents here, but what I was getting at was that this nativist thing is just one of the many characteristics, lower base characteristics of humanity, and of Americans that Trump played on. So the Trump administration played on all of these: nativism, homophobia, sexism, general racism. Not just the guys that came here, but, she was saying that she was, East Indian, and then said she was black, and all this kind of stuff. They're eating the dogs, all this business was designed to bring out and champion the worst characteristics in humans. And then they could just work with that. And it really inspired so many people. It inspired the very people that he may one day deport. So America also has a long history of people voting and choosing against their interests because they get hoodwinked. So this time, he didn't even need the Electoral College to win. He literally got more votes. And you could literally get more votes and lose in the Electoral College, as Hillary Clinton learned and as Al Gore learned. But more people in America wanted Trump and Trumpism than they wanted Harris and Bidenism, or whatever you wanted to call it, Bidenomics. So, and there's a laundry list of reasons why. She was a new candidate, again, lefty liberal, female, brown-skinned, the funny laugh, whatever you wanted to say about her, but, she was a very well-qualified attorney, vice president, senator, prosecutor, attorney general of California. This person was damn qualified, come on. And articulate and smart and seemingly kind and compassionate, open-minded, strong. I mean, that's, Kamala Harris is kind of like exactly what you want. It's exactly who you want. Now, you may not like all of her policies and fine, but people were sitting and saying things like, she's a socialist. That's a total hogwash. Well, some of us lefty libs wish she was more socialistic. She's, in the pocket of big business as much as Biden, as much as all these conservatives, all these trash-talking bullshit artists. All the AIPAC money's behind her, all the big pharma, oil, all these people are behind all this, pick your poison. They've all got big money behind them. And she was against fracking until she was the vice president. Now she's like, okay, I see. They get to everybody. And I'm not saying they shouldn't in some ways, too. Of course, we're going to drill for oil in this country. Of course, What are we going to stop? We got more of it than everybody else at this point. So, again, another tangent. But this was inevitable. And so some are saying, well, I'm glad there wasn't cheating in the election. Yes, of course. Glad there wasn't a civil war. But, of course, I would have rather, in some ways, that Harris or somebody, Harris had won, and that those Civil War attempts were made so people could say, see how ugly this is, see how stupid this is, see how violent this is, see how un-American this is. And so instead of us seeing how bad and how un-American this is via the Civil War angle, we're going to see how bad it is via the Trump presidency, where his policies will get enacted, and we'll find out just how bad those policies are, or we'll see the hatred, we'll see the racism, we'll see the sexism, we'll see the mass deportations, the women losing their rights and everything, and then we'll say, aha, Trumpism is ugly as a governing principle. It is chaos. It is disgusting. It would have been nicer if we had said, oh, see, these guys tried to plant these bombs in these places, and these people tried to secede or whatever. See how stupid this is. See how bad this is. Let's, stamp it out, and let's come, we're back to sanity, back to normalcy, which was an invented word. It's normality. But anyway, that's my pedantic side. So here we are, where now the only option is we get to reject or see or experience the legitimate Trump and Trumpism. We get to experience, and I say that with an asterisk. Obviously, it's not legitimate. The man should have never been allowed to run again. He broke so many laws and norms that attacked our Capitol. It's only legitimate in the sense that people literally did vote for him, apparently, and more of them did, and so he and they won.